All right, take two. First rule of this channel, we do not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So welcome to Chasing the Dragon Week 13. This is the reactive waiver wire pickup. The guy that I think is the top of my list this week would be Jonathan Mingo. With the coaching change in Carolina, that's a variable that is probably, I can guess that may be a positive variable for Bryce Young and the offense, and Jonathan Mingo getting about 90% snaps. The flip in productivity with him and the ghost of Adam Thielen is something I'm interested in. And the other thing is that they have Tampa Bay this week, and Tampa Bay is statistically the second worst pass defense. So everything is pointing towards a good Jonathan Mingo week. I would even consider rolling him out in my high stakes leagues where I actually may need a wide receiver too, or a flex guy. So like that's how kind of excited I am about potentially catching this going out there, and I have a pretty good team in that league. So that would be the number one guy I was going after, and then I cheated a little bit, and I was looking at some of the other waiver wire pickups this week. Keaton Mitchell, if he's still available in your league, I don't know how competitive you are. I was talking about him a couple weeks ago when he had the blow up game against Seattle. It's not that I'm not interested in these guys. I'm not interested in paying to find out. So if you picked him up week 9, if you paid to get him week 9, when he falls back down to earth, you may be, throwing him away thinking that like this is not sustainable, or like, how am I going to get a hold of this? At this point, the snaps are going up, the opportunities are going up. And those are what I like to see, because now the coach speak of like, we're going to get him more involved. Well, the numbers are proving that out, as he's eating into both Justice Hill and Gus Bus, their overall usage. So I could see him getting in at 60% snap share, with some receiving work and, the gravy of the rushing work. He's never going to get the goal line work more than likely. So like when he gets touchdowns, it's going to have to be because he, is special. But at this point in the season, like 60% snaps, which is what he's trending towards, coming out of the bye, like that would be who I would be paying on if he's still available in your league. I don't know how many leagues are going to still have him being available. Jeff Wilson's another guy. Like I would be prioritizing handcuffing him, or at least taking him off the playing board in my league. Devin Achane was basically a healthy scratch. And I could definitely see like wanting to get a hold of any of these guys in this offense, and keeping them away from my opponents would probably be pretty valuable at this point going forward. And Achane hasn't been able to stay healthy. The rest of the backfield hasn't been able to stay healthy. Like you're counting on a 31-year-old Mostert to make it through the rest of the year. Yeah, I would just be taking this guy off the board if he's available. So in this last game, he only had 33% snaps, 11 for 56, and 3 for 3 for 17, which is something I'm really interested in, because like the passing work floor is always what's going to keep guys valuable. So like having a guy like Jeff Wilson, and this is potentially going to be a huge shootout with the Redskins this week. So like there are a lot of things to like, especially to cuff. It would be sort of a priority in my league. These are the little roster moves going into the playoffs that could potentially win me a league. So Curtis Samuel, not that interested in, even though I want to be throwing out all the pieces I can, trying to predict that this is going to be a shootout with the Dolphins. I don't like the 55% snaps. That's really efficient, 12 targets on 55% snaps. Not something I can necessarily guarantee are going to happen, just because he's not going to potentially be on the field. So if Johan Dotson's available, this would be the guy that I would be going after, because of that 85% snaps. That would be something I would be more interested in. And I could definitely see that he's going to be the beneficiary of them trying to take away Scary Terry. And depending on who's available, like what's going to cost me to find out if I need a guy for a bye week, or I need that like flex wide receiver 3 going forward. That would be something at least for a 1 week rental before the bye week. Jalen Hyatt's another guy. I think this is another guy like Jonathan Mingo that I would be more interested in down the line. He's going to be relatively cheaper, I think, because of the bye week that they go on. If you need that wide receiver 3, or you need that dart throw wide receiver 2, or that flex coming out of the bye, I think he can win you a week versus Green Bay. I'm not that excited about him for New Orleans. Philadelphia and the Rams are good ways to end the season off, and Tommy DeVito has not been like necessarily bad at football. So this is a guy that like trying to trace those patterns. This is a guy that's saying, hey, yeah, you'll start using me before I really blow up. So like this 60% snap, 6 for 65 and 109, that may be the height of what he does, but he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. And I could definitely see he's going to still have the opportunity to catch one of those by the end of the season. I don't particularly see him being shut out. the rest of the way. I already talked about Jonathan Mingo. Not a lot more to say about that. You can see the snap share right there. And then he has been getting some opportunity, and now he's cashed it in to production. So like moving forward against a good matchup at Tampa Bay, and then again, not as excited against New Orleans, but Atlanta, maybe definitely Green Bay, and maybe Jacksonville in the finals. So there is something to like about this going forward. And then, as I've said before, I don't like unpredictability in my fantasy, except for when it's an unknown variable, and then I can buy low to find out what the outcome is because it costs me relatively nothing to throw it away. Josh Palmer coming off IR this week, not interested in this. I don't think I can trust anybody on this Chargers offense outside of Keenan Allen, and that includes Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. So Palmer coming in, trying to step in to be that wide receiver 2, like that lower volume, higher efficiency guy. He's going to have to cash in on like 4 to 6 targets a game. And I just don't know if he's going to necessarily be able to do that. And they have the Patriots coming up. Patriots are going to be a well-coached team. So like this is, I would be probably betting the under on it this week coming off of all the stuff. I don't think Quentin Johnson is going to go away. So trying to guess right and have it all come down with a touchdown in your hands is probably not in a bad match. It's probably something wouldn't be chasing going forward this week, especially when I have other guys like Cedric Tillman. So Amari Cooper may be out with ribs. Vacated targets tend to go to running backs. I could definitely see them going to David Njoku. But Cedric Tillman, again, this is another guy that we've been following this uptick since the trade of Donovan Peoples-Jones. And he goes 74, 85, 88, 89. And then this week, he's starting to get that production 5 for 4 for 55. So he's going to be an outside guy. So outside guys on the perimeter, 6'3", 215, second round pick out of Tennessee, or I think it's third round pick. Anyway, a guy like this is a guy that could definitely turn into something to win me my league. I don't necessarily think that he's going to move Amari Cooper out of the way, and then there's the quarterback situation going on. But as you can see down the line, there are some favorable matchups that I could be rolling him out for. So the Rams, Jacksonville, Chicago, Houston, and then probably not interested in the Jets, but there are some weeks where they could be throwing the ball vertically down the field. And if I have the ability to roll a guy out like this in the lineup, I know he can win me my league, even though like they're going to be safer floor guys to be rolling out there. So again, if I want that safe floor, I can go with Elijah Moore. Again, vacated targets with if Amari Cooper is going to be out, potentially Joe Flacco. I think is going to be the quarterback this week, if not PJ Walker, kind of a turnover machine. But Elijah Moore is a guy that like I am going to get more of those targets, and they are going to be less productive targets. But I can guarantee in that 6 to 10 opportunity range. Greg Dortch not interested in it at all. So he's taken over the Rondell Robinson role. Rondell whatever. This is why I have this other one up. The wide receiver for the Cardinals, you could see right here, Rondell Moore. He took over his role, these like short slot routes that he's taken over with Michael Wilson being out the last couple of weeks. So he's going to take over those roles. And these wide receiver threes just generally are not going to win you leagues because they're not going to be productive. That's what Greg Dortch has been able to take advantage of. So last week he gets those slot snaps. 8 for 6 for 76. And then this week he cashes in with a touchdown. None of this is necessarily going to be predictive. So you're just chasing something. You're chasing windmills at this point going forward. So again, and if I really, really want to be rolling a guy out because of this, like week 13 against Pittsburgh, Michael Wilson may be back. I would be more interested in rolling Michael Wilson out if he's been dropped in my league than going after like a Greg Dortch or Rondell Moore. Let's see. Brandon Cooks, like this is a guy I talked about last week, or 2 weeks ago with the week 10. If he's available in my league and it costs me nothing to find out, then I'd be stashing him on the bottom of my bench when he did 10 for 9 for 173 and a touchdown. And the Carolina game, that doesn't scare me off because I know what I'm getting at a wide receiver 3. So if he's available in my league, he's doing 80% snaps, 5 for 4 for 72 and a touchdown. There are some really favorable matchups coming out down the line, so I can definitely see rolling him out. Maybe not Seattle going to turn into a shootout, but like we saw with the Buffalo Bills and the Eagles game, this could definitely be, week 14, 15, 16, 17. These could all be higher scoring games, which means there's more opportunity to go around because the Cowboys are just not going to lean on stuff. A.T. Perry was interested when he did 84% snaps, 4 for 2 for 38 and a touchdown. Not interested after he did 74% snaps, 2 for 1 for 7. Part of that's going to be the offense. And as I show how overwhelmingly prepared I am to explain this a little bit. So he didn't produce with Chris Olave going out with a concussion and Shaheed going out with a thigh. So the idea would be that he would be able to take over the vacated targets that happened when Michael Thomas went on IR. He didn't do that, which bothers me. And then the guy who steps in and takes advantage of this is the wide receiver Lee Bowden from Kentucky. And he's kind of a gadget guy too, but he steps in with 64% snaps, 2 targets, and then he gets 2 carries. So like if there's a guy that I'd be a little bit more interested in this offense right now with these vacated targets would be Lee Bowden, because of the fact that vacated targets, again, a fantasy rule, tend to go to running backs. And this is a team that already has Alvin Kamara, and they have a converted wide receiver in Juwan Johnson, and then a gadget guy in Taysom Hill. So like everything says that like A.T. Perry is probably going to not get those 8 vacated opportunities, and something that he couldn't even cash in on with a quarterback in Derek Carr that threw for 300 yards in this last game. He couldn't convert into that. So like, again, probably not as interested in it as the tea leaf said the week before. Let's see. Tutu Atwell, again, a guy I'm not interested in. So Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were both at about 80% snaps, which was something that we were expecting. So Tutu Atwell was able to be very efficient on 3 for 3 for 76 on only 36% snaps. And this was a strange game because Kyron Williams went off for 200 yards total offense and scored 2 touchdowns in the passing game. Tyler Higbee had 2 passing touchdown or receiving touchdowns from his tight end spot. And then Tutu Atwell gets home on 36% snaps, 3 for 3 for 76 on what's left on the table. And Matt Stafford throws for 4 touchdowns. So again, like a lot of this stuff is not going to be repeatable by the offense, and it's just something that I'm not particularly interested in chasing. I was going to be interested in chasing Tutu Atwell if Cooper Kupp was out, but with Cooper Kupp going back to that 80-90% snaps, this is something I'm not going to be willing to chase. Odell Beckham also not interested in because of the snaps here. So his 3 receptions basically came early on in the game. And to explain more why I am not interested in this, showing again how overwhelmingly prepared I am. I don't know why I pulled up the Panthers yet. I'll talk about them later. So when we look at the Panthers, the guy that I would be interested in if I was going to chase this is the 80% snaps, the 5 for 2 for 21 from Rashad Bateman. He's going to be on the field. And this is coming out of a bye week. So going down the line, what it's going to cost me to roll out Rashad Bateman, who's been fantasy relevant before, going week 14 through 15 through 16 through 17. In some of these games that do predict to potentially have a few more snaps or scores going on, it's the guy that's going to be on the field 80% of the time. Did get 5 targets this game. So the overall, trajectory of Rashad Bateman is buy right now. And the overall trajectory of Odell Beckham is to not buy at the cost that it's probably going to take you to find out. Matt Stafford, again, not interested in this, and that's primarily because they're going up against Cleveland. Maybe Cleveland's not going to be as good this week. This may be the week to take advantage of them, but like again, the bad matchup. It says not a good matchup. I'm not going to be chasing that from a streaming standpoint if I don't have to get away with it. So I do have 2 other guys I want to talk about when it comes to streaming this week. One would be my boy Gardner Minshew in a plus matchup against Tennessee. I don't know how much I'd be really interested in going after that this week. The other 2 guys that would be interesting to me going forward, in the tea leaves would be Kenny Pickett and rebounding with the firing. And this is part of the concept behind Jonathan Mingo. And we're going to talk about Bryce Young here in a second. So like the firing happens, and then the positive variable being that like whatever the coach was doing to stop the player from being good, well, it turned around. So Kenny Pickett is a play this week at Arizona. Probably more of a priority stream. And then if you're in deeper leagues and you really are in a bad situation, again, the tea leaves say roll Bryce Young with that coaching change against the second worst passing defense out this week. So that would be something that I would be interested in doing in lieu of trying to chase Matt Stafford's 4 touchdowns chase that dragon in a bad matchup against Cleveland. And then moving on, so Dallas Goedert is supposed to come off IR, and so he probably won't play week 13, but week 14 is something to be looking at. The other guys to look at: Tucker Kraft. Luke Musgrave may not come back from IR, but again, this is something to look at. 96% snaps, so he's moved into that Luke Musgrave role, and I could definitely see him having. Well, he will have fantasy relevant weeks. It's just going to be trying to predict which week he's going to go down. And remember, tight ends can never lose me a week; they can only win me a week in fantasy. And again, that leads me to what everybody's saying you should be going and picking up off the waiver wire this week is Pat Freiermuth. And again, trying to guess Pat Freiermuth where he's going to be at. Like his snaps have been down since he's been back. So this is 2 weeks back from coming off of IR for the hamstring. Only 59% snaps, 11 for 9 for 120. The problem that I have with him is being able to guess which week is going to be a Pat Freiermuth week, which week is going to be a Deontay Johnson week, which week is going to be a George Pickens week. I just don't know how much it's worth it when there are other guys out there that I could probably not have to knife fight with somebody on waivers for to go pick up. And then finally, the guy that I kind of thought everybody was going to be talking about, and hopefully I got everybody. If Demario Douglas is available on your waiver wire and he's injured right now, I think he's got a concussion. I'm not interested in him. Trying to get those horizontal targets in a bad offense. I didn't write him down. And then, so the main guy that I was a little interested in, that I would definitely be trying to pick up on waivers this week is Samaje Perine of the Broncos. So he came in on 27% snaps, 7 for 55 and 1 touchdown. This is kind of the identity of the Broncos. And then they're 1 for 1 for 11 in the passing game. But the interesting thing is Devontae Williams went out with a neck. And I haven't heard any news on it yet if it's going to really affect him going into next week. But like if a guy like Samaje Perine can get this 70% snaps and a running back late in the season, a neck is one of those things that like could get a guy shut down for the rest of the year. So like of some of the guys that I would be really looking to be aggressive with would be potentially getting an RB2 coming off the waiver wire, when I don't think that Keaton Mitchell is going to be available in a lot of leagues, and I could definitely see Samaje Perine being available. So again, that's kind of what my thought process is on the reactive waiver wires this week with all these bye weeks going on, and hopefully this will help somebody out.